Welcome to the PPV podcast. We are live here back at the South Sueño compound. We got a hell of a show today, so prepare yourselves for this one. Last week we were talking about scripture. Today we're talking Special K. I have a good buddy of mine here, Andre. Thanks for coming on the show today. He's going to be talking about some of the experiences that he's had in regards to ketamine treatment. So I'm going to basically let him introduce himself and we'll get started.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate you having me, Eric. My name is Andre. Been working for Fire for about 4 years now. Yeah, I grew up in Massachusetts, moved out here and was adopted by my aunt and uncle when I was about 9 or 10. So before I came out here, I was a part of the foster care system. Um, Definitely was tough growing up, bouncing around from house to house. And I think as an adult, I realized that developed a lot of abandonment issues that I now carry into my adulthood. And I want to say that was the core reason I was looking for another way to, I guess, tackle that insecurity I had. Um, but growing up through foster care, yeah, it's tough. You get accustomed to one family, and then all of a sudden you're ripped away and you're put in another position. You have to start all over. So I think that core part of me was why I reached out to, I guess, the fire service for a sense of belonging, a sense of family, right? So um, it's definitely has its pros and cons. Where I learned at a young age and able to adapt to different environments, but I was always searching for a place of belonging, a family to be a part of, and that's definitely what brought me and kind of attracted me to the fire service in general. And then growing up, being a teenager, obviously playing sports. I mean, that was, you can't deny the fact that in the fire service that we have that team mentality,
Yeah.
that kind of locker room mentality as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of different things that kind of attracted me towards this career, and it's been fulfilling ever since. I know I'm 4 years in, so I've only been here a little bit, a lot to learned a lot, and a long way to go too. So
Yeah. How long were you in the foster care system?
yeah, about, I want to say 3 to 4 years, from about 6 to 10.
Wow.
It was definitely a rocky start where they did something at first called respite care. So when my parents weren't able to take care of me, they'd bring me to this lady's house with like 20 other kids, and it was weird, man. I learned some interesting habits to kind of cope, where I would just tell myself, "Hey, mom's coming tomorrow," and go to sleep, and she wouldn't be there. I'm like, "Don't worry, she'll be back tomorrow," and just kind of lie to yourself to kind of get through the day. Um, but after that, they took me into a more permanent home, and with a strange lady. And I remember when she took me, I cried all the way to her house, locked myself in the bathroom, and took me a while to get adjusted, but finally, after, a couple months, got adjusted, got comfortable, and then they rip you away again and take you to a different home and kind of start that cycle again. So
Jeez.
definitely learned some interesting habits that didn't really translate into my adult life, especially in relationships. I think that was my biggest thing as I kind of gained some self-awareness of myself. I didn't feel safe in my relationships, and I always related that to the other person. And when we talk about uh, the ketamine and the therapy treatments, like I had done talk therapy, I had done meditation, I'd done a bunch of different things, and just couldn't find a way to, I guess, open up that that box of how do I heal from this, right?
Yeah.
So ketamine definitely helped dive deeper into my subconscious and give me more space to understand what was actually going on, and realizing that other people aren't necessarily the issue. It's something deeper rooted in me that I needed to tackle.
Dude, like I meant to say this in the beginning, but I feel like I think I've told you this before too. I hope I have, but I feel like the biggest thing I admire about you is just how open and honest you are. Like we've talked about this before, but I do feel like being vulnerable helps people recognize that and,
Mhm.
allows people to come to you when they actually have a time of need, and it
Yeah,
helps create like a good relationship. And I think we've had some of our best talks at the table at the station. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah.
So I love that about you, dude. And that's why I was so excited to have you on, which is a good transition for this piece here. Can you tell me about your treatment with ketamine. I mean,
Mhm.
how you got into it, the process of actually getting started with it. I think that the 100 Club
Yeah.
is kind of in that process. And then, really, what was it like? Like, what did you experience? And then after that, I'll kind of have some more questions for you. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. So, yeah, I think the 100 Club helps us out. Definitely a great benefit that we have at the fire department. It's a very expensive process. I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. So they give us that scholarship. It was a very easy process getting involved with them. I reached out to a coworker and just needed my name and my social security number and birthday, and then he sent it down to the company, and the company reached out to me to schedule. So once you're in there, it very much is a safe environment. This isn't a party drug, right?
yeah,
They're giving it to you at a therapeutic dose. They're making you feel safe. You kind of sit down and you have a therapy session. You kind of talk about your goals and your intentions as you go into what they call your journey. Um, and you sit there and it's very intentional. So you have to be vulnerable. You have to open up to figure out what you want to experience and what you want to focus on. So for me, going through foster care and the root of my abandonment issue I discovered was my mother. I was always yearning for her. I was always trying to get back to her. And before we dive deeper, I always thought, when I first heard about the ketamine through the department, I thought it was, mainly for us when we've experienced too much trauma
yep,
on calls that we run. Um, and there's a stress coach that we talk to that I'm sure you're familiar
yep,
with, and she's got this theory, the trash can theory,
uh huh,
right? And you come into the department and you have calls and it fills your trash can. One thing I didn't realize is how full my trash can was as I came in, right?
yeah,
There's things that you deal with as you're growing up, and then extra stresses in life, whether it's your children, a
yep,
divorce,
totally,
the the adventures that you take on the department, such as medic school.
yeah,
I think my trash can, I didn't realize how full it was, and then I applied to medic school this year, and it started overflowing so much so that I started having panic attacks,
yep,
and I had never had panic attacks before in my life, and I'd be at the station, and I can't even describe it. I just felt so trapped and anxious, and I had to leave. I had to get out of there just to calm down. So, and I didn't want that to get in the way of my life, whether again as a father or having these attacks distract me from my studies. So I talked to some people. I reached out to our member services, and they helped me get connected with the right people and got into the ketamine therapy. So I was definitely nervous going in. Wasn't sure what I was about to embark on, but once you get to the facility, they make you feel comfortable, like I mentioned. They sit you down, you have a good conversation, and then there's a bed that they lay you in, and they give you some headphones and an eye mask. And the therapy I went through, you can do it IV or IM.
mm-hmm,
They gave it to me IM. So they give you kind of, I guess, a small dose to start to make sure you're not going to have any allergic reactions or anything like that, and make sure you're okay with it. And it kind of mellows you out, eases you into it, and it really is a dissociative. I remember sitting there or laying there, and I couldn't feel my extremities anymore. I couldn't move my feet, and I just kind of was put back into my subconscious. I was still there, and then they come and they give you the full dose, and they want you to give a thumbs up to make sure you approve of it. So once they give you a full dose, after maybe 5 minutes of getting that injection, I was just sucked into, I guess, a wormhole. And bear with me as I try to explain this, because it is tough to articulate, but I felt like I was flying through space. And again, I've got those headphones on, so the music kind of almost affected the things I was seeing, but I was going through space, and then I would be like in a box, and shapes and colors were kind of moving around, but my subconscious was linking shapes and colors to different things. And as I talked with the therapist through each session, I did 6 sessions here. I realized that the colors, she kind of related them to chakras or root
okay,
chakras, or different parts of your
mm-hmm,
body. And I kept seeing the color red. And for some reason, my subconscious didn't like it. I didn't like the warm colors at all, and she was telling me that I have an issue with my root chakra and I need to get more comfortable with that. So, um, I want to say the ketamine treatment is a great way to open the door and get you introduced to what you need to work on. but the real work comes after the treatment, where you go home, you journal, you sit there and you really think about what you need to do to change or address the things that you saw. It's almost like a window and a way into seeing what really is going on with you, right? Because it's not necessarily the world that's the problem. It's trying to figure out what's, learning more about yourself. So
Yeah. So for those that have never heard of ketamine or unaware of like ketamine treatment, this is not some crazy thing that we're talking about. I mean, it sounds crazy, but this is a well widely accepted treatment, primarily for, you're right, kind of that. I hate calling it PTSD because they're actually kind of changing and reframing that as well. But just like kind of like he said, when your trash can's overflowing, you have so much stuff going on. That's kind of like what I'm trying to do, just talking with the podcast, right? Like you're right, dude. Like when you grow up and the things that you go through, or in your adult life as you go on, okay, now you take on a job of a first responder, a firefighter. That what you have going on at home doesn't, okay, now I can put this over here. And okay, now I'm a firefighter. Now everything's great. Now I go home. It all starts to blend together. And sometimes that can cause some really, really big issues if you can't find a way to empty your trash can. Or, in the words that I put it, kind of ventilate your space, create that exhaust point, and find some fresh air to blow into that space to try to relieve those toxic environments that are living in your head. So ketamine is one of those options. Like I said, it's widely accepted. It is out there. Um, the thing with ketamine is like we carry it on our trucks. We can administer ketamine as paramedics for a couple different reasons, but it is a dissociative, and it also acts as an analgesic, so like a pain reliever. So basically, what will happen is the ketamine will react in receptors to kind of shut them off, and that makes you extremely vulnerable, and it'll dissociate you. So you've heard stories of people like laying on the surgery table and they saw themselves pull away from their body and they're looking at their body. It's a true dissociative. Ketamine is that chemical that will do that to you. And from what I understand, the purpose of ketamine is for that to happen and to put you in an extremely vulnerable state to really hit those issues that you wanted to address going into this treatment head on. And you're right. Like I started actually journaling just on a couple things that people have told me about this experience. And then also that same lady you mentioned also told me a good way to empty the trash can is journaling and just
mhm,
write things down.
yeah.
And then when you feel like you're at a point where you're content with the things that you've gotten out of your head and put on paper, burn it. Um, so I think there's a lot of things that go into this, but ketamine is really the agent that allows you to let your guard down, let your walls come down and attack these issues head on. Um,
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that ketamine gave me overall through these sessions was, like we mentioned, that trash can. You have all of these issues, right, that you come into work with, and then you're adding stress as you go through the department, as you gain more experience throughout the calls. What ketamine did is give me more space. It almost made
mm,
my trash can
mm,
bigger. It gave me more room to organize everything in a way where I can. It didn't get rid of my problems, but it gave me room to take a big breath of fresh air and say, okay, what do I have here and how can I organize it? Instead of everything being in this cramped space, I had more room to organize everything. And it's been a stress reliever because I don't have those panic attacks anymore. And it's really helped me give me more of a focus where I could say, okay, this is what I have, and I can get more organized and then really zone in on the things I want to zone in on. So
yeah.
yeah, it's helped out a lot.
It's funny that I shouldn't say it's funny, but like I've had anxiety attacks too, and they
Hmm.
kind of come on like when you least expect it, and you're like, "What is this?" But
Yeah,
we run on anxiety calls. That's probably our number one call that we run
yeah,
on, and
yeah.
it's like I don't want to downplay them because they feel like you're dying, but we run in them all the time. So for us to admit that we have that too is, I mean, that takes a lot of strength, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, it's been such a blessing that I was able to do this. And everybody's got something going. You never know what people are
Yes.
going through, right? So I would recommend it to everybody. If you have the means to do it, it's been a lifesaver. I don't know if I would have been able to make it through at least the paramedic program if I didn't have this opportunity. So things were getting tough for whether it was, I mean, just pipes leaking at my house or my son going through some issues at school. things were getting overwhelming.
Yeah.
I was starting to feel it. So
Murphy's Law was getting heavy in you.
yeah, it really was. And I've always had this thought of like, am I ever going to know? Are there ever going to be warning signs of when things are overwhelming or I'm going to get depressed? And there really wasn't.
That's a
It
great point.
it just hit. It just hit one
Yeah.
day while I was sitting at work, and it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
So
And that, dude, that's such a great point because um I feel like based on our profession, those warning signs might be there, but because of what we do and like I think we're so focus driven and like mission driven that we almost brush it off like, okay,
yeah,
hold on, I'm not done. Hold
yeah,
on. And then it's just like, okay, too
yeah.
bad I'm here.
That, and I mean, I feel like I can speak for most of us that have this profession, is like I have that type A mindset where I'm like,
Exactly.
that's never going to happen to me. It's
Yes.
never going to happen to me. Or if it does happen, when it does, I'll push through it. No, I got crippled. It was very crippling. So,
Yeah.
yeah, between that and I had some other things happen this year between relationships and it was so much where I just needed a timeout. And I'm lucky enough that I had member services here that was able to give me the resources I need. This has absolutely been a lifesaver. So
That's awesome, dude.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm glad to hear it. I've had conversations with a couple people that have been through this and they pretty much all said the same thing. It
yeah,
has been life changing. So
yeah.
how has your view of the world and maybe yourself and the way that you see things and your perspective on things, has that changed since treatment? And if so, how has it changed?
Yeah, I think it's given me. I always thought of myself as a patient person, but it's given me even more patience because, like you said, we run a lot of anxiety
Yep.
calls. Well, now I can relate, and I
Yes.
think that's what we're always trying to do is find somebody on the crew that can relate to our patient. I feel like now I can be an asset and bring that to the crew and relate to what they're going through. It is crippling, and sometimes people just need someone to talk to. And now I feel like I can be kind of that tool that they may need on calls. So um, it's definitely given me even more empathy than I had before. And I know we talk about burnout and compassion fatigue. This has helped. I don't want to say reset, but like I said earlier, give me more space to
Yeah.
understand how people are going through things. And like I mentioned, you never know what somebody's going through and what their limit is. We all have different size trash cans, man, and I'm very blessed that I was able to make mine bigger. And hopefully, like I mentioned earlier, there's still work to do after you do this treatment. You still have to be cognizant about taking time outs and journaling and being self-aware. Hopefully I can continue to empty my trash can or ventilate properly and make
Yeah.
sure that that doesn't happen again. So
Yeah. I'll tell you what, dude, we've had this conversation about ketamine at the station too. And I remember you've always asked me, like, hey, why don't you do it? Have you ever thought about doing
yeah,
it?
yeah,
I have thought about it, but I think I've told you this before too. Like, dude, I'm almost afraid of what will happen. You know, like
hmm,
I feel like I've spent so long, maybe not emptying my trash can, but that old school trash can compressor, like
yep,
just compressing all of it down.
yeah,
I feel like I've spent so long compressing the trash to where I can manage
yeah.
that for a little while. Um, to where I'm almost afraid to see what happens when it gets shakes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get you. I mean, the problem with that is you don't, sometimes you won't even remember what you put down there, right? And then all of a sudden you wake up
Yes.
one day and now you
Yeah.
got a huge dumpster fire and now you gotta put it out. So,
Yeah.
I'll share with you one thing that it did for me. When I was a kid and even still this day, it's a stupid fear, but tornadoes always freaked me out. And I remember in one of my last sessions, and I mentioned earlier, the color red really kind of freaked me out. And the therapist told me, she goes, hey, lean into it, let it happen. Just trust that your subconscious is going to guide you the right way. And I remember in one of my journeys, or I call them trips, but she wanted me to call them journeys. But in one of my trips, I saw red and I didn't get that kind of anxious, overwhelming feeling. And my brain started talking to me and it was like, see, you're safe. Let me show you something. And then it took me to this field and there was a huge tornado there. And I thought I was going to freak out, but it was actually very calming. And my brain was talking to me. It was like, see, you're safe here. And it even zoomed me out in the field. It was like, look how much space you have to deal with this. You're fine.
That's
And it was,
crazy.
and I know it's more of a metaphor of, like I said earlier, of I have so much more space now to deal with the things that I might be scared of and space and patience. So I never thought it would get that deep. Cause if you talk to my parents, I mean, even my dad would tease me sometimes if there was a storm. He's like, oh, there's a tornado coming. What are you going to do? I mean, that was one of my biggest fears. And while it's nice to be able to address that and realize I'm in control now and I don't
That's
have to
crazy.
let the world around me control me.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
How long are these sessions? Kinda like
Generally the whole thing is about 3 hours. So
okay,
for the first hour, you do that prep and that kind of, you figure out where you want to go in
every
that.
time?
Every time
Okay.
they talk, they kind of de-stress and they put you in that kind of relaxing mood. And you talk a little bit and then they lay you down in the bed, they give you the injection, and the trip can last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending how your body metabolizes the medicine. And then afterwards, they bring you some tea and some chocolates and some candy and all that stuff. And then you discuss it. You discuss what you saw and try to bring meaning to what you see. And not everything has meaning. I saw plenty of things that I'm like, I'm not sure what my subconscious was trying to tell me, but there was a lot of things. I know I got vulnerable with us in the beginning of the show where I talked about the root of it was my mother. And in some of my sessions, I related this purple light to her. And there was like this ritual that my brain put me through of like these hands messing with the light. And they threw the purple light up and it like exploded. And it was more of me getting over the fact that, those abandonment issues that my mom left me with don't have to control my life and don't have to leak into my relationships as well. So you never know what you're going to go through or experience. Like you said, it could be, it, you never know what your brain's gonna direct you towards, but I feel like it's given me more of a better relationship with myself. Um, but yeah, the sessions themselves last about 3 hours and it's well worth it every time. So
You brought up something that made me think of something that we had talked about, and I've actually heard it a couple different times since we talked. Ego death.
yes, yeah.
What is it? Did you experience that?
Yeah. So that is something I wasn't familiar with before I did these treatments. And it happened, I want to say in my fifth session. And after doing some research, I guess it's a point where everybody, at least in this space, has tried to reach. And I reached it unintentionally. So like I said, my therapist told me to lean into things, and I kept looking for control. I wanted to always control something, almost like while I was in my trips, I wanted to hold on to something to
Mm.
keep me grounded. And she told me to lean into it, so I let go. And it's tough to explain, but it was almost like I kept zooming out and I kept zooming out. And at one point, I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going too far. And it brought me into this white void where I didn't know anything. I remember I kept saying, what is this? What is this? What's happening? And eventually just got to what is this? And then what is? And I felt like I was two eyeballs in a white space. And I thought I died. I didn't have any hands. I didn't have any senses. I could just see a white void, and I freaked out. And after maybe 3 or 4 minutes of being in that, it brought me back to my house, and I was in my bed, still in my journey, in my bed, and I was safe. And what it meant to me is that all of these things that's happened in my life, they don't define me. Like it really was, in a sense, an ego death. All of the things that have brought me to this point in life, they don't have to define me.
Yeah.
So again, it just was a more emphasis that it gave me more space in my head to deal with all the things I've been through. So
Dude, that's incredible.
yeah,
It's incredible that a drug, could do that.
yeah,
Um, wow, that I mean, when we give it in the street, it's generally for either pain, if we're going to try to sedate somebody to intubate them or to sedate like a combative patient. That's when we'll do like the IM. And it works great. It will knock them out pretty much, send them to a different land. There is the K hole. If you are not familiar with the K hole, it's basically, from what I understand, it's basically like Alice in Wonderland when she's falling down and down and down, but a
yeah,
bad
and
trip.
that's pretty much what they do here is they put you therapeutically in a K-hole, but you're in a safe environment, right? And that's why I say it's not a party drug. You're not out walking around, like you're monitored the whole
Yep.
entire time, right? So, and that's what made me feel safe enough to let go,
Yeah.
because I knew I was in a safe space. I knew I was in just an organized atmosphere where I was going to be okay. So did I think it was going to go that far? No, not at all. And like I said, I wasn't familiar with an ego death. And this was just the entrance. When that happened, I had to go home and do some research. And still to this day, I'm still trying to figure out, what does that mean for me? What did all of these I guess, visions. What is this showing me? So, and that's what I mean by like you still have to put the work in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a journey so far, and the journey doesn't stop with just the medicine. You still have to be intentional with it.
So is it a total of 6 sessions?
That the 100 Club offers us,
Okay.
yes, yeah. So they did a great job because I mean, after the first session, it was great, but it's almost like ending the movie after a half hour. You're like, well, wait, I need what was that trying to show me?
Yeah.
Where were you trying to take me here?
Yeah.
So it was great that I did 6 sessions. They do have a drop in depending on where you go, but it's definitely a little pricey. So
Yes.
you
Yes,
have
it
to save
is.
some money for it.
Yes. Well, that's awesome, dude. I was telling you this too. We ran on a patient last week, and we were talking, and he has a lot going on in his life. He started telling us about he put himself through ayahuasca
Yeah,
treatment. I was kind of talking to him like, "Hey, how long is that trip or that journey?" He told me 12 hours.
yeah, that's
So,
incredible.
and he basically said it was 12 hours of absolute hell, like facing demons. And
Yeah.
he said afterwards it was worth it, but I mean, what'd you say, about a 3-hour turnaround when you get there to the finish?
Yeah, yeah, and again, you're only in that K hole, that trip, that journey for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how
Yeah.
much they give you, and you can elect to take a little more, a little less. They usually go up in about 10 or 15 milligram increments for you, and just communication with your therapist is or your provider is always good. But yeah, there's plenty of different ways in the world to deal with anxiety. I've always thought, I mean, you could take Prozac, you could meditate, or you can go to therapy. When I started getting anxious throughout my life, I turned to meditation. I know it's kind of an
Yep.
Eastern world way of doing it, but that helped. But that was just such a surface level for me, that when these panic attacks hit earlier this year, I wanted to go a little deeper, and this definitely helped open the door to my deep subconscious and help me get to the root of some of my issues. So
Yeah. So obviously 6 sessions, and before you even do that, like that's a big commitment to make.
yeah,
You are already going through a bunch of stuff, and like you said, you were a paramedic student.
yep.
How were you able to basically juggle going through paramedic school, being a full-time firefighter, and a father? I mean, how do you do
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I think that's a great question for anybody that's going through this kind of career, right?
Mhm.
It's more triage as you're trying to figure out.
Mm.
I think if I start with the father aspect is communication, my son, and when you enter this job, you realize that you're going to be working birthdays and holidays. So
Yep.
he knows that, and he knows like, hey, sometimes we won't celebrate Christmas on Christmas. We may have to do it a couple days afterwards, but either way, he's going to have a Christmas. So him being flexible helps a lot. Paramedic school, that really couldn't take a back seat. So with all these panic attacks, I needed to find a way to get to solve that issue, whether that was meditation, whether that was going to therapy, or possibly getting on a different medication. So when this was presented to me, I jumped on it, and I am very thankful that I did. Because then I was able to refocus my studies
Yeah,
and make it to the end of the program. So yeah, that was good.
that's awesome, dude. Um, yeah, I guess some of the thoughts that I had while we were talking, and then that I wanted to mention was, I
Mhm.
mean, like, how incredible is our mind? Like, it's infinitely
Yeah.
powerful. We really have no idea what's in there until you start doing something like this to block our normal receptions for different nerves and stuff. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is just know where you're at. Like, really take a good hard look at where you're at and make a decision that's not only best for you but your family and your career and your future, because like I said, our mind is so powerful, and the things that you experience, just having those receptors shut off for a little bit,
Mhm.
I mean, dude, it's incredible. Like the things that our subconscious mind and our unconscious mind is maybe trying to tell us or wanting to show us, but we're so involved with everything that we have going on at work and at home that we never let that door open
Yeah,
until we
absolutely.
do. Right.
Mhm.
Like I think about that story that you told about the tornado,
Yeah.
and like how meaningful that was of like, let me show you, like, here's your space and you're no
Yep.
longer afraid. Like, that's incredible,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, I didn't have to let that control me, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's more of a metaphor of like this is a tornado, but these are all the stressors you have in your life, and you're letting this overwhelm and run your life where you have all this space if you just zoom out a little bit. So
Yeah.
it was like I said, you mentioned the brain being so powerful. I really feel like it helped me develop those different pathways to just find more space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what, dude? like this is probably something everyone has heard, but more so recently, especially as I've kind of begun this journey and have been doing this now, your thoughts become who you are. Like
Mhm.
truly, your thoughts become who you are. If you think a certain way about the way that you feel, or the way that you look, or in any type of light, negative or positive, you will become that. I always tell people when you look good, you feel good. I've said that for so long because when you look good, you just feel good. Like everyone knows what that's like. But when you don't feel good and you don't look good, then you feel horrible. And it's so easy for a lot of us to, like, everyone's heard of seasonal depression. I feel like I used to get that every single year and I didn't know why, but I would get it so dang bad, and it was really just I had to take time to, like, why every year do I get this? Like, I don't wanna be around anybody. I wanna be extremely antisocial. I don't wanna go anywhere. I don't wanna talk to any, like, it was so bad every single year, and then, like, the spring would come and I would defrost, like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'm back." It's like,
Yeah.
why do I do that? And it really became the thoughts that I had and developed in my head about things that I have felt for a very long time, and it just so happened that it was during that time of year that these thoughts would come up again,
Mhm.
whether it's, financial stress from buying gifts and the time off that your kids have from school, or getting together for the holidays, or there's just so much stuff that goes on in those couple months that we're actually coming into, right?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. For me personally, when I find myself in some of those spaces, I really have to pause and think about, okay, like, what am I actually feeling? Like, I actually have to go find my seat of the fire in my house, in my head, right? In my brain housing group, I have to go in there and find, where is the seat of the fire? Okay, now I got to find my exhaust point, whether it's talking to my wife or calling up Andre or talking to someone at the station. And then I have to find some type of fan to blow that fresh air in to get that stuff out of there. Like, it's the thoughts will become who you are. So if you want to be someone that's successful, if you want to be a great father, if you want to be a great friend, if you want to be a great, officer, firefighter, whoever, like if you want to be that great person, you have to go find somebody living in real that you would say that is a great boom, that's a great whatever. And then think about how you can become that person. For me, I work backwards on some of these things. Like, dude, it's hard to be a dad. It's tough to be a dad, especially in the job that we do. You're right, man. Like, I sometimes the kids cry when I go to work on their birthday, or I'm not home for Thanksgiving, or I'm not home for Christmas. They don't understand that I just can't not go to work. Like, I've got to go to work. If I don't go to work, then maybe Andre gets forced to work, and Andre's a dad, and now he's
Yeah.
not going to go on a day that he was supposed to have
Yeah. It
off.
affects
So
somebody.
it affects somebody. So
Mhm.
it's tough, man. But I feel like when we can at least have people to encourage us with our thoughts, that becomes encouraging for us, for our person, who we are, um, and ultimately our actions. And like I said in the first one a little bit, like us as first responders, man, like I hold us to a higher standard because we're called every day to go run on people and provide them help in a time of need every day. And we have an opportunity to be a light. But when you're showing up to work and you're stressed out and you're, you know, not happy with the way things are going and you're a little disgruntled and you're showing up to these people, do you really think that you're going to be providing the level of care that they deserve? I always try to say, like, imagine this was your mother or your father or your grandmother or your grandfather. I just got off work today. I was working a little overtime. We were on scene for an hour today with a lady trying to help her out ultimately. I have no problem with that. I don't. I
Yeah.
really don't have a problem with that. It's about talking to people. It's about trying to make their life better. Um, we can't do that if our life is not what we need it to be.
I think
Dude.
that wraps around to self-awareness, right? And you mentioned a lot about seasonal depression. I think some of us have it, worse than others, and I think it happens to everybody. But at the end of the day, you have to be self-aware and create your own
Yep.
happiness. Taking that breath of fresh air, taking a second, stepping back, and say, "Hey, this season or whatever's happening in this season doesn't have to define me. Doesn't have to run my life. What can I do to create my own happiness? Whether that's taking a walk outside, lighting a candle." I'm a big proponent of the little things, right? So
Yeah. What do you do?
I do. I set my environment up. I have a candle in my room at the fire station. Just, I mean, that's helped me study. It's helped me relax. It's creating your own environment, right? So, meditating, my dog at home helps me out. So going for walks, just taking a breath of fresh air. I think us as human beings, we're always depressed and thinking about the past or anxious to think about the future.
Yes.
And we
Good
forget to
point.
be in the moment
Good
and
point.
being self-aware and just taking yourself out real quick, just taking a breath and just be in the moment.
Yeah.
It helps slow some things down and give you that space again to be like, okay, let me reset. Now, what do I need to focus on? Where's my priority? What do I need to triage here for this season, for the holidays coming up? So,
Yeah. Totally. I agree, man. Um, what else, dude? Anything else?
I know I mentioned abandonment issues to start, and that was my root issue and root reason for wanting to go into this. Because in my relationships throughout my life, I didn't feel safe. I was looking for safety with other people, and this helped me realize that I can kind of protect that inner child of myself and feel safe with myself. I don't need someone else to hold me. I've got myself, and I think that's what a lot of these journeys kind of taught me. So, this is, it's been an individual experience for me, and I think ketamine can help a lot of different people in their own
Mm-hmm.
unique way. But man, this was such a lifesaver for me to realize that I've got me and I don't need to necessarily look to other relationships for other people to get me. Yeah, that's nice to have. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the root, I've got me and I'm safe with myself. So that's what my subconscious told me. And that's very healing for me inside. So
Beautifully said, dude. Beautifully said. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I
yeah,
appreciate you
absolutely.
sharing
Dude,
everything
it's been a
again.
pleasure. This is
I
awesome.
love you, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you all again for listening. Thank you for kind of watching everything that I've been putting out. Trying my best here. Hopefully the mics sound better. But seriously, thank you so much. I mentioned this already, but if you or someone that you know would like to come on and kind of share your story, please reach out to me. And again, if you're going through something and you feel like you have no one to talk to, talk to me. Give me a call, DM me, whatever it is. Like I promise you, I will answer you at any time of day. I don't want you going through some of the things that I've had to see in the past few years with different people. Um, there's a point that you do have to step back and try to assess yourself. Give yourself a little self-assessment, see where you're at, and depending on what answer you get back, maybe it's time to take the next step. I think ketamine is a great step to take. You can reach out for more information on that,
Yeah, absolutely.
and we'll lead you in the right direction. But really, like you said, it's about self-awareness. And I think in our arena that we play in, you have to be extremely self-aware. Um, as we know, if you become complacent in certain situation, that could be the last time you're walking on this earth or not coming home to your kids or whatever it is. So for me, this is a big deal, man. Self-awareness and your mental health is one thing, and translating that into hazardous situations out on calls, it will pay dividends when you have that awareness level to see things around you and have a full field vision of what's going on. Because at the end of the day, my number one goal is to get myself and my crew home back to their families safely. So please reach out if you need anything. Again, thank you for everything so far. It's been awesome.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, brother.